Well, we have some breaking news that's coming in. The Asian Paints numbers have come up for you on the screen. And in fact, the street has read two numbers positively. One is the decorative paint volume growth has come in at around 1.6%. The poll was for a more or less flattish number. They are saying that in the near term, they remain cautiously optimistic on demand recovery. And that's why we're seeing a bit of recovery. And even the EBITDA margin number, the absolute number, I think, was more or less in line. But the margin number was a little bit better, which is telling you that, in fact, at least as of now, there is some kind of, profitability that's coming about. Revenue number, that's a wee bit lower, but the EBITDA number was better, the absolute number, which explains why the margins are better. So two numbers to focus on for Asian Paints out here. One is the volume number. Volume growth number is a little bit better than what the street was working with. The second reason is that, in fact, the margin number is a little bit better. And as the management is saying, they're cautiously optimistic about the future. Keep in mind, it's a bombed out stock. It's a big underperformer. So any kind of positive trigger could send the stock flying. And that's precisely what's happened. Explains why the stock has moved to the high point of the day. Prakash Diwan joins us to help us out with a quick analysis of these numbers. Well, Prakash, margin beat, volume growth a little bit better, and commentary fairly optimistic. What do you make of the stock?
Nigel, all of this sounds quite positive given the fact that this was expected to be a very weak quarter, especially, the profitability was likely to get impacted with the margins, while revenue might not have been such a big disappointment. But then, this is the interesting part about some of these big brands. And now Asian Paints is also possibly, and we'll of course wait for more details from the management, but they're possibly getting much more traction in the non-paint segments as well. So that could be quite interesting to see whether that becomes a defensive play which offsets the weakness in the competitive intensity-led weakness in this thing. Pricing power is missing as yet, but I'm sure the margins have been made up for from other segments. We'll wait to hear the commentary, but very good numbers given the low expectation that we went into the earnings with. Okay, all right. So on muted numbers, Prakash says that these numbers look good. Naveen Kulkarni, Chief Investment Officer at Axis Securities, joins us as well. Hi, Naveen. Good afternoon. Asian Paints, it's been a while since they surprised, but they've surprised positively this time around. The stock is up more than 5%. Volume growth numbers a little bit better, and margins a little bit better, and commentary is a little bit optimistic. What do you make of these numbers?
Yeah, so after a long period, I guess Asian Paints has beaten our expectations. Right? We were expecting numbers of around 1,090 crores, and they have delivered 1,128. So there is a 3% beat on our earnings growth estimates, right? So that is good. But more importantly, what I can see is that the margin number is significantly better than what we expected. So margin at 19.5% is definitely much better than, let's say, the street expectations or our expectations of 18.5%. And this was the key concern for a very long period, right? So Asian Paints as a stock has derated significantly, right? And that was primarily on account of margin concerns. Now, with this kind of margins, I think overall prospects look to be much better than what they were, let's say, a couple of months back.
Interesting. So would you be positive on the stock from here on, Naveen? Because the problem is the street has been so pessimistic. And if you look at the EBITDA number, the absolute number on a year-to-year basis, it's a big degrowth. But still the street is celebrating it because expectations are so low. Your view on the stock added on this 2,400 odd mark?
Yeah, so if you broadly look at it, let's say there is a decline of almost 20% on a year-on-year basis. However, if I were to look at, let's say, the stock price performance over the last 3 years has been flattish, right? In fact, marginally negative also. So from that perspective, all these things are into the price now. Of course, from here, they have to deliver on numbers, they have to deliver on margins. But I think considering, let's say, the macro environment stands to improve from these levels. Secondly, of course, they continue to be leaders. That is not going to change anytime in the next decade also. So from that perspective, there is a good chance that investors might relook at Asian Paints, and it might be worth allocating to this name, considering the kind of prospects that this company still has.
Got it. And I think on a valuation parameter, it trades at around 45 times, Naveen, on a forward earning basis?
Might be a little higher, let's say around 50 rupees EPS, and maybe in the range of 48 times. So
48 times, which is at a discount in comparison. We have seen Asian Paints trade at 60, 65 times as well in the past, isn't it?
maybe 75 also, right? So
It's all right.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Got that, Naveen. Thanks a lot for joining in and giving us that view. So, Prakash, what would your view be? Naveen has just told us about the numbers. There is some optimism in the commentary. This volume growth number is a little bit better, and there are plenty of challenges as well that still lie. But still, the street is celebrating it. They would be considering that, on a valuation parameter, it's trading relatively cheaper in comparison to what it trades at. There is some kind of positivity in terms of the volume as well as margins and commentary. Your take on the stock added on this 2,350 odd mark?
Yeah, Nigel, I agree. So there is positivity. The commentary is, of course, what's driving the interest. But remember, this is also in the backdrop of the budget, which has done enough to spur discretionary consumption. And if you were to stretch that logic or rationale of decorative paints also featuring in that at some point in time, it will see some sort of a demand revival across the board. And if that happens, the leadership position that Asian Paints has will also yield decent improvement in earnings. But I would not buy it at this thing, though I know forward 47, 48 times is much cheaper than what it has historically been trading at. But those multiples are what need to be re-rated and recalibrated. I think the steady state multiples will probably be in the late 30s. And for that to happen, you'll have to give it another 1 quarter. So let's see. I'm not in a hurry, lots to pick and choose from. But yeah, it does tell you that things could look up and the worst might be behind us. But before making any buy calls, we'd probably wait for 1 more quarter.
Thanks a lot for joining in. You're waiting by patiently for the time being. You're seeing that these numbers look better. And as Naveen told us, on a valuation parameter, it trades at a bit of a discount in comparison to what it's traded, when things were going very, very well for them and they were firing all cylinders. So that's about Asian Paints.